Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, where we delve deep into the world of lesser known Japanese horror. I am your host, The Scared Sheep, and I just want to start this video with a thank you to all of you out there watching this. Your support and encouragement has really meant a lot to me. Following the end of my video covering Housou Kinshi Episode 6, Death Limit, I received countless requests to continue the series with the Housou Kinshi movies. So I am very excited to introduce the first of the three movies to you today. 68 Days of the Vengeance Enforcer continues the storyline of episode 6. So if you haven't already watched my video on that episode, or just need a refresher, please go back and watch that first before continuing this video. That being said, this video will actually be a two-parter, as there is not only a lot of content to cover in this movie alone, there is actually bonus material exclusive to the DVD that I will need to cover as well in order for you to get a complete picture of the story. So without further ado, let's jump into 68 Days of the Vengeance Enforcer and see if you can spot the truth. The movie opens with the question, what would you do if someone you loved was killed? Being posed to a variety of passers-by in front of the famous Hachiko statue, right outside Shibuya Station. Interviewing random people in a busy public area is a very popular TV program format that has been used in Japan for decades and is still used today on all mainstream TV stations. The people interviewed here give a variety of answers ranging from the killer should receive imprisonment or the death penalty to I would kill them to asking why the killer did it. But the respondent who stood out the most was a high school girl with her friend who responded that she would want revenge. Next, we move to a hidden camera with our interview director. At this point in the movie, we don't actually get to hear his name as it is always muted out. So I'll just be calling him the director moving forward. At first, the director manages to point the hidden camera in his bag at a very conveniently angled mirror so we can get a look at our interviewee. However, our masked lady calls him out on it and gives him permission to film openly. At this point, our masked femme fatale is introduced as Shichigawa Noramu, the leader of the dark web revenge website known as Shiero. During the interview, Noramu offers our director a chance to film their group carrying out a request for revenge, but he declines. She explains again, however, that although they are a group which carries out justice and therefore is doing good, she actually is not giving him a choice in this matter. We now jump to nighttime in Roppongi, an area in Tokyo famous for nightlife, high-end shopping, restaurants, and the next target for Shiero. Uchida Takako is the #1 hostess at a popular club in Roppongi. It seems that Takako has a bad habit of using men and bleeding them dry. Taking a look at Shiero's revenge request form, we also see that the person who requested Shiero's help used the nickname Mirukuha no Danshi. I will explain more about this and other names that we will encounter throughout the movie at the end, but see if you can decipher it for an important clue. Anyway, our director follows Takako and her date to a swanky bar and secretly films their conversation from a nearby table. They talk about a variety of romantic subjects, such as going on vacation overseas and meeting his parents in his hometown, and he mentions how he would love to someday marry a girl like her. Outside, they continue the conversation before he pays for her cab. It's at this point that we are introduced to our test questions. This should be a familiar format to you as we first saw it at the end of episode 6. You see, for each target, they are given a test and their fates are determined by whether they can pass it or not. The first question is, did she make him pay exorbitant food and drink costs? Yep. The second question is, did she hint at marriage? Oh, she more than hinted at it. 3 days later, we see her in a bar with the same man. She lays it on pretty thick, with a sob story of wanting to quit the hostess industry, but needing the money because her father's in the hospital and she had to borrow 5 million yen, about 33,000 USD at the time of this video. She asks him if he could lend her the money so she could pay off her debt and then they would be free to get married. And he agrees to lend her 2 million yen, so about 13,000 USD. We now see the latter part of her test with question 3. Did she ask for a large sum of money? And Takako's final test score, FAILED, failed. The director covertly films Takako being abducted by a group of men and then is texted when and where to meet Noramu. He makes his way up to the 5th floor of the appointed building and finds himself looking down on Takako, who is tied up on a bed below.
今からあなたの復讐が執行されます。ご安心ください。死刑ではありません。あなたの顔をズタズタに切り刻むことにします。麻酔がかかってます。安心してください。
The next day, Noramu checks on Takako at the hospital from inside a taxi and is satisfied with the results. During further interviewing, we find out that Noramu finds these actors, like the man pretending to be interested in Takako, online and hires them to carry out the target's tests. She says it's important that they know nothing of her and she knows nothing of them in order to keep identity secret. In the next scene, we learn about a 51-year-old teacher named Takaoka Teruo, who jumped to his death after slanderous flyers began circulating around the school where he not only teaches, but so does his wife and his son attends. This teacher was accused of sexually harassing female students, as well as bullying students and encouraging others to do so as well. The director accuses Shiedo of being behind the flyers, which led to the teacher's suicide. At this point, Noramu offers the director 2 choices. He can either join Shiedo or forfeit not only his, but his family's life as well. Moving on, our director receives his next text from Noramu to meet a woman at an apartment in Kawasaki, which is a city in a prefecture bordering Tokyo to the south. In her message, she includes instructions for him to wear a suit and that he is supposed to play the role of a husband who is working as a salesman at a major general contracting company. And I hope this apartment looks familiar. If you watched episode 6, then you would recognize this as the apartment from the abusive husband storyline. The director is clearly feeling very uneasy and unsure of what to do. His fellow actress tries to play off of him, but it isn't very convincing.
腹減ったな。
Noramu sends the director another text telling him to go into the bedroom, and for the first time, we see the director's face as he sits down on the bed. Next to him is a spare change of clothes with a note telling him to put them on. Finally, we get a look at the text the husband kept receiving, and just as suspected, they were instructions on what to do. During this first dinner, he receives a text telling him to suddenly go crazy and to hit the woman playing his wife. The couple has their first staged fight, and afterward we see Noramu enter the apartment, assuring the actors that they are no longer being monitored by Kumoda at the moment. The director, being a much nicer human being than the husband he is pretending to be, checks on the actress and apologizes for having to hurt her. Just like we saw in the episode, the pretend couple spend the next several days without incident until the journalist Kumoda calls the wife and tells her to make him angry. In response, Our director husband receives a text from Noramu telling him to hit her. After he finishes his abusive outbursts, he receives another text, this time telling him they are all done for today.
お疲れ様でした。
ちょっと待ってください。僕たちなんでこんなことしてるんですか？
さあ、私にも分かりません。
でもあなたは殴られたりひどい目遭ってる。
すべてはノラムのため。
Due to his impromptu interview with the actress, Noramu brings him back to where they first met and agrees to tell him more about who their target is. Through interviews with colleagues, we find out that Komoda was not well respected in the industry as he often fabricated and altered material for his work. She then shows him the request for revenge, which was submitted by a woman with the pseudonym Maruina Idenshi. Noramu then goes to explain what Komoda's tests are and how he has failed each one so far. Moving forward, we reach the last time we saw the husband in episode 6, as he disappeared off screen in what sounded like an altercation. In actuality, he receives a text once he reaches the front door and simply pretends to be attacked. Just like we saw previously, Komoda enters the home and picks up the phone. However, we gain a new perspective from this angle and see Noramu on the other phone in the entryway with the husband and wife actors. I admit, I giggled to myself a little bit when I imagined them all hiding in the bathroom waiting for him. I can't imagine that the conversation was anything but awkward. Returning to our director's point of view, we see Noramu bring the axe down on Komoda, and we see a look of shock and recognition come over his face. The actress playing the wife interrupts to ask if she is done here, and Noramu dismisses her. It looks like the axe attack that we originally thought put an end to Komoda was more for show, and Komoda's real punishment has yet to be handed down. After a bit more back and forth, Komoda's face is doused with sulfuric acid, ending his career as a video journalist. Later on, we see our journalist and husband actor catching up with the woman who played the wife at a ramen shop. He tries to get more info about Noramu from her, but the only thing she will tell him is that her real identity can be found by looking closely at the Shiedo website. She finishes her meal and promptly leaves, forgetting a videotape on the table, although she probably left it there on purpose for him as another clue. Also, it's worth mentioning to take note of the lady at the bar, who orders more noodles. Our director returns home and studies the tape as well as the Shiedo website as suggested, and comes to the conclusion that Noramu's true identity is Eguchi Kurumi, the bully from the documentary that we originally learned about in episode 6, and whom was supposed to have died in a fire along with Kamino Ruma. Here, we are shown more footage from the bullying documentary, and for the first time, we see that Eguchi was actually accompanied by 2 others, whose faces are obscured and names are changed. But we can at least see that it's a guy and a girl. In one interview with a former classmate, while everyone else insists that Eguchi Kurumi was the bully leader, she says that it was actually the guy in the group. We also see some home videos of Ruma playing with her necklace while talking to her older brother who is recording her. The brother then gave a speech at the press conference regarding the fire. His face is also blurred, but we see that his name is Kamino Mitsuru. He says that he believes his sister was murdered by the group of bullies, and since the law won't bring them to justice, he will. He even goes so far as to flat out say he wants to kill them. We are next introduced to our third target, a doctor named Fukamachi Kazuhiko, who has been accused of multiple incidents of malpractice, but has never been
依頼
punished.
者は
We see the good doctor on vacation in Okinawa with his girlfriend. As they sit at a beachside restaurant sipping cocktails, Fukamachi begins to cough violently, and his girlfriend gets staff to help her load him into the car. The car drives for a bit and then parks on the beach next to another car. Both Noramu and the girlfriend get out of their respective cars and switch places. Noramu informs Fukamachi that he, in fact, drank arsenic and will die if not given the antidote. After allowing Fukamachi to suffer for a while, Noramu goes to administer the antidote, but the director grabs both the syringe and vial from her and throws it into the bushes. Brandishing a hunting knife, he chases her down the beach and stabs her to death, claiming revenge for his bullied sister. Our final scene is aerial news coverage about the 3 dead bodies discovered on the beach. 29-year-old male Fukamachi Kazuhiko, 32-year-old male Kamino Mitsuru, and one unidentified woman. Okay, so, taking into account what we already knew from episode 6 and what we just saw in this movie, what really happened in this story? Well, to briefly summarize, we know from episode 6 that Noramu's true identity is Kaminaruma. That truth hasn't changed. Both she and her bully Eguchi Kurumi were supposed to have died in the fire that Eguchi set, but she survived and assumed parts of Eguchi's identity when necessary. The director was actually Kaminaruma's older brother, Mitsuru. Uchida Takako and Fukamichi Kazuhiko were actually the 2 other high school students who bullied Ruma, with Fukamichi potentially being the actual bully ringleader. The teacher who jumped off the school roof was actually one of Kaminaruma's former teachers, who turned a blind eye to her torment. And Komoda was the journalist who did a piss-poor job at covering the bullying in his documentary. In the end, our director killed his own sister as he mistakenly assumed her identity to be the bully Eguchi. And that's the story in a nutshell. Now I'll go back and break down some of the clues. One of our first big clues is the pseudonym of the person who requested revenge on Uchida Takako, Mirukaha no Danshi. When written phonetically and reversed, you get Shinda no wa Kurumi, meaning the one who died is Kurumi. Our next clue is along the same lines and requires the same strategy for solving. Do you remember the pseudonym of the person who requested revenge on Komoda? It was Marui na Idenshi. If we write it out and reverse it, we get Shinde nai Ruma, meaning Ruma is not dead. Remember the woman who requested a noodle refill at the ramen place? Turns out she's a Shiedo collaborator, as she played the role of Fukamichi's girlfriend. Our last clue to Noramu's true identity being that of Kaminaruma is the pendant. We see Mitsuru clutching the necklace from around Noramu's neck after he stabbed her on the beach. This is the same one that we see Ruma wearing in a few scenes in the documentary. And there you have it, folks. The first of the 3 Housou Kinshi movies. I'll be back next time, though, with the bonus DVD footage to finish out this crazy tale of revenge. Thank you again to everyone who made it to the end of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you all next time. Bye!